The first principle of success is the action principle. It is the most important principle because 90% of success is simply showing up. Life only rewards action, not intent. It's very important in success that we know how to make decisions, pull the trigger. Doing something is always better than doing nothing. Life only rewards action. It doesn't care what you intend or intended to do. Your actions are all that really counts. God did not give you the ability to always make the right decision, but He did give you the ability to make a decision, and if it's wrong, then do whatever you need to do to make it right. Very, very important to succeed that we simply take action. It is always better to do something, to be a person of action. Make a decision and make it now. Trying something is better than doing nothing. You need to fail often and succeed only once to succeed at almost everything you try. We learn and we grow from our failures, so don't be afraid of failing. Pull the trigger. Some people spend their entire life aiming and never actually pull the trigger. Be somebody who does pull the trigger. If you miss the mark, adjust and pull the trigger again. But keep on shooting. Remember, not some, all of your actions matter. Every move we make and every action we take matters, not just to us, but to all of us, and for all time. It's just not the big things that count. Everything counts. Let me describe you a principle called the butterfly effect. Norman Borlaug, his actions changed the lives and saved the lives of over 2 billion people and counting. Norman Borlaug, if you don't know who he is, developed the process for hybridizing corn and wheat in arid climates. This process is now estimated to have saved over 2 billion people from starvation. 2 billion people and still counting. And for his actions, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. But for all the credit he received, he did not. He was not the person who really saved the 2 billion people. The real person was Henry Wallace, and he really deserves the credit for saving 2 billion people. Henry Wallace was the vice president under Franklin D. Roosevelt's second term. Henry was formerly the Secretary of Agriculture for the United States. And when FDR picked him as his running mate, both Norman Borlaug and Henry Wallace grew up on farms in Iowa. Henry Wallace used his position to create a station in Mexico whose sole purpose was to somehow hybridize corn and wheat for arid climates. He hired a young man named Norman Borlaug to develop and run this project. So truly, it was Henry Wallace whose idea it was, and he truly deserves the Nobel Prize. Or does he? Maybe the person who saved 2 billion lives was really George Washington Carver, famous for developing the 266 uses for the peanut, 88 for the sweet potato, and for the Victory Gardens during World War II. But as it turns out, a few weekends with a 6-year-old boy named Henry turned out to be his greatest achievement. A few afternoons saved the lives of 2 billion people. As a 19-year-old college student at the University of Iowa, George had a professor who allowed his 6-year-old son, Henry, to go on botanical expeditions every weekend with his star student. George talked all day long about how plants were God's gift. He instilled a vision in Henry that plants could save the world. So the real credit for saving 2 billion people should go to George Washington Carver. Or maybe it was a farmer in Diamond, Missouri named Moses. Moses and his wife Susan. Their farm was in a slave state, but they didn't believe in slavery. There were groups like the KKK called Quantel's Raiders who would terrorize all the sympathizers. And on one cold night, they attacked Moses and Susan's farm. They burned the barn. They shot several people. And they dragged off a woman named Mary Washington, who refused to let go of her son, her infant son, George. Moses sent out the word that he and Susan wanted Mary back and wanted a meeting with the raiders. Within a few days, a meeting was set in Kansas, several hours north. Moses rode horseback to the meeting place where he met 4 of the raiders carrying torches and wearing flour sacks with eye holes cut out over their heads. Moses traded his horse for what they threw him in a burlap bag. In the bag was a half-dead, half-frozen baby, George. On the long walk home, Moses decided to raise the baby as his own, and Moses and Susan Carver gave George their name. So really, the person who deserves the credit for saving those 2 billion people was the farmer from Diamond, Missouri, because he saved the 2 billion lives. You see, every move we make matters. Not just the big ones, but truly every action we take. It is called the law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions, the butterfly effect. You impact everyone you meet every day. We are not just selling signs. Our actions affect us. They affect Signtronics, your customers, but your actions affect your customers' children. Maybe your designs, your command of the presentation results in your customer being able to send his child to medical school, and his child might save your grandchild someday. Everything counts. Learn how to make decisions. It's part of succeeding. You decide everything. Believe it or not, it's all in your hands. You make that decision. You are responsible for everything in your life. You make the decisions, and then your decisions are going to make you. Every action you take has an opposite and equal reaction. This law of science is true in everything. Pay attention to your actions and how they come back to you. It is always better to do something, so decide right now to be a person of action. It is exciting that you are in control. You and only you can change the results that you are getting. If you want to change your life, then you must change your life.